My name is Emily Hartman. I'm 32 years old, and the moment my entire life cracked open was in my parents' living room, surrounded by relatives, champagne glasses, and fake smiles. My mother had just announced that the $27,000 she had promised and repeatedly assured was my wedding fund had been given to my younger sister, Lily. She said it almost casually, like reading a weather report. "She deserves it more, Emily," she told me, smiling that soft, motherly smile that had never quite belonged to me. "She's marrying a surgeon. Their wedding will reflect our family better." My stomach twisted. I stared at her, certain I misheard. "Wait," I said, voice cracking. "That money was for me? Rick and we planned everything based on—" But she lifted a hand, stopping me mid-sentence, as if I were a child interrupting adults. "Well, your fiancé is just a teacher. He'll never be able to support you the way Lily's fiancé can. It's better this way." That was when Rick, who had been silent, tense beside me, suddenly stood up. The room hushed. Every eyeball pivoted. Not even the clink of glass remained, and the words that came out of his mouth changed everything. But we'll get to that. Before we continue, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a story like this. And if at any time you feel that gut punch of injustice or unfairness, hit that like button so I know I'm not alone speaking to the void. Now, let me take you back, because you can't understand that moment without understanding the decades that built it. I grew up the oldest of two girls in suburban Pennsylvania, in a neighborhood where maple trees shaded sidewalks and everyone waved at each other. But inside our house, that warmth was reserved for Lily. It didn't start brutally, it never does. It starts subtly, like a draft through a closed window. When I brought home an A, my mom would nod. "Good job, honey." When Lily brought home a B+, the reaction was different. "You are brilliant, look at you." She would cheer, lifting Lily off the ground, spinning her. I learned early, two people can do the same thing and one will be seen as exceptional. She was sunshine, sparkle, a walking celebration. I was solid, responsible, predictable, the good girl, the practical one. I was the one my mom leaned on to help cook dinner, to help fold laundry, to take care of chores. Lily was the one she showed off. Dad noticed sometimes, quietly. Once, when I was 12, I asked him why Mom always made a bigger fuss about Lily. He exhaled, weary. "Your mother always dreamed of having a daughter who would live a dazzling life," he said. "You're steady, Em. You're strong. But your sister, she's her fantasy." I didn't fully understand then, but I remembered the words. I carried them like a marble in my pocket, turning them over, sometimes forgetting they were there until a situation rubbed them raw again. By the time we were in high school, the contrast deepened. I earned a scholarship. I volunteered. I made honor roll consistently. Lily? Well, Lily was prom queen, homecoming queen, voted most likely to marry rich. When I got into Penn State, Mom said, "Good, good, stable career opportunities." When Lily got accepted to a private fashion institute for design, Mom nearly cried with joy. "My daughter, she's going to be someone." Those words hit me harder than I admitted. I wasn't someone, apparently. I was something, reliable, not remarkable. Fast forward to when I met Rick. I was 29, teaching English literature at a high school, and he was a history teacher. Just an average profession, my mother would say, average salary, average life. But what she never saw or never valued was the way Rick looked at me like I was a miracle. The way he remembered the smallest details, that I hated peppermint, that I hummed unconsciously when grading papers, that I always double knotted my shoelaces. He listened. He cherished. He believed I was more than enough. When he proposed on a quiet evening in our living room with a ring he saved for over a year to afford, I cried into his shoulder and whispered, yes. And my mother, well, she wasn't thrilled. She said, he's sweet, Emily, but a teacher, that's limited. When we discussed wedding plans, though, she assured us repeatedly that she had set aside a wedding fund for me since childhood. Every wedding needs to be dignified, she said. Of course I've saved for yours. I trusted her. So when that day in her living room came, that humiliating reveal, I wasn't just shocked. I felt something ancient inside me fracture. She had not merely chosen Lily over me once more. She had taken something that rightfully belonged to me and given it away. I remember standing there, not breathing. I remember Lily's expression, a little guilt, a little smugness. She said softly, Em, you don't mind, right? Our venue alone is $38,000. Our venue, as if I were irrelevant, as if my wedding were casual. I remember Dad rubbing his forehead, silent, avoiding my eyes. He looked tired, older, like he had tried to resist Mom on this but failed, or worse, didn't try at all. Mom continued, gently but firmly, the way a bank officer delivers bad news. As parents, we have to make choices that reflect the family image. I didn't know what that meant, except that I didn't reflect what she wanted the world to see. And that was when Rick stood up. Slowly, calmly, but with a fire in his eyes I had never seen. He said, Emily and I don't need your money. We never did. My breath caught because, of course we did. We absolutely did. Then he turned to my mother and added, but what Emily deserved was respect, and you never gave her that. Gasps went around the room. My mother's lips tightened. Lily looked uncomfortable. Rick wasn't done. He said, and as for your image, I'd rather marry Emily in a parking lot wearing paper rings than participate in a spectacle built on favoritism and cruelty. My heart pounded against my ribs. People stared, some shocked, some awkward, some rooting for him, quietly, secretly. But my mother just gave a small, artificial chuckle. Oh, don't be dramatic, Rick. She said, this is a family matter. She waved a dismissive hand toward him, then toward me, as if we were children throwing tantrums. That was when something shifted in me. For the first time in my life, I spoke without filtering, without softening, without apologizing. No, I said. This was my wedding fund. You promised it to me. You reassured me again and again, and you took it. Now, here's the thing. When you confront someone who's always held power over you, you either see shame in their eyes or you see cold certainty. My mother's eyes, they were cold, flat, confident, firm in her belief that she was right. She told me, you'll understand when you're a mother. Some children simply shine brighter. And there it was, the truth, the core, the poison. I didn't explode. I didn't cry. I just felt numb. Rick put his hand on my shoulder, gently but firmly, like a vow, a silent one. And that was when Lily spoke up. Em, maybe once you two earn more money, you can have a nice wedding too. I don't know if she meant harm, but it landed like a slap. Rick inhaled sharply and said, we're leaving. We walked out, past the champagne, past the relatives, past the shocked silence. I didn't look back. When we got into the car, I finally burst into tears. Rick held me. He didn't say, it'll be okay. He just held me, and then he whispered, you're worth more than they ever saw. That night was the first time I admitted the full truth out loud. I think my mother never loved me the way she loved Lily. Rick didn't argue. He didn't give comforting cliches. He simply said, then it's time you learn to love yourself more than she ever did. I didn't know yet how true those words would become, but the real twist came 3 days later, when I received a message that changed everything. A message that revealed a secret, one that would tear open the past, shatter illusions, and expose what was really going on behind that family image. It was a text from my father. Just 8 words. There's something you need to know about Lily. I stared at my father's message for a full minute before responding. It was 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday, and Rick had just gone to shower. I was curled on the sofa in our apartment, a blanket around me, still emotionally bruised from the confrontation. My father was not the type of man to send cryptic texts. He was gentle, conflict avoidant, methodical, the kind of person who reads every instruction manual cover to cover before assembling a chair. So when I saw the message, "There's something you need to know about Lily," I knew it wasn't impulsive. It was deliberate, carefully considered, and possibly dangerous. I typed back, "What do you mean?" He replied almost instantly, "Not over text. Can we meet tomorrow?" A little chill ran through me. My father rarely asked to see me privately. Usually it was, "Come over for dinner," or "We'll see you Sunday," or "Maybe you and Lily can both visit." But this was different. I wrote, "After work, 6 p.m.?" He responded, "Yes." Then just, "I'm sorry." That last part made my skin prickle. Rick came out of the shower, hair damp, towel around his neck. "You okay?" he asked softly. I nodded, or at least attempted a nod. "My dad wants to meet. Just the two of us." Rick raised his eyebrows. "That's about your mother and Lily, I'm guessing." I exhaled. "I don't know, but it feels like something big." He sat beside me and squeezed my hand. "Maybe it's time you finally get the truth." The next day dragged like a wet sand. Teaching was nearly impossible. I stood in front of my classroom, reading passages of Steinbeck, but my brain was elsewhere. When students left, I sat alone at my desk for a moment. I remember thinking, what could Dad possibly reveal? Something financial? Something personal? Something about the wedding fund? Or maybe something about Lily herself? When 6 p.m. finally came, I pulled up to the little diner where he suggested we meet. It was one of those old-fashioned places with neon signs, red vinyl booths, and the smell of grease and nostalgia. Dad was already there, sitting in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, though he wasn't drinking it. He looked older than usual, or maybe I was seeing him clearly for the first time. I slid into the booth. He didn't smile. He didn't do small talk. He simply said, "I've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to you girls." I swallowed. "Dad, what's going on?" He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes slowly. "Your mother always favored Lily. You knew that, but you didn't know why." He paused and the silence felt heavy. I didn't either, not at first, not for many years. I assumed it was just personality, or connection, or something intangible. He looked up at me. But when Lily was 17, I found something I wasn't supposed to see. My voice barely came out. "What did you find?" He leaned in, lowering his voice even though no one was listening. "Your mother and Lily are connected in a way that you and your mother aren't." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He sighed in that tired, defeated way. "Emily, I'm your father, but I'm not Lily's." I froze. Words fell away. Air fell away. I stared at him, unable to process. He continued, gently, painfully. "Your mother had an affair, years ago. Lily is the result of that. I didn't know until I found letters, photos, and a paternity test. Your mother eventually admitted it." I felt like someone had reached inside me and twisted my organs. So Lily isn't biologically your daughter, I whispered. He nodded. Not by blood. My mind raced. Does she know? Dad shook his head. No. Then, at least I don't think so. I leaned back, staring at the checkered table pattern, trying to steady myself. So many puzzle pieces began snapping together. The favoritism, the effusive affection, the indulgence, the instinctive loyalty, and my mother's chilling words. Some children simply shine brighter. No, not shine. Belonged. Who's Lily's father? I asked, though my throat tightened around the question. Dad looked broken. He was a wealthy man your mother dated before me. Old money. Had connections. He moved away, married someone else. Never claimed Lily publicly, but your mother always kept hope that one day he or his family might acknowledge her, or benefit her. That hit me like a hammer. So Mom sees Lily as her golden ticket? Dad nodded. Yes, then added, quieter, and you remind her of me. I stared at him. The truth stung in its simplicity. My mother saw Lily as the jewel, the glamorous potential, the child of the man she wished she married, and I was the consequence of the man she ended up with. My father reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Emily, your mother's behavior is not your fault. It's not about your worth. It's about her regrets. He let go, sat back, and exhaled. When she gave that money to Lily, I wanted to stalk her. I argued. We fought. But she told me I had no say because the fund came from her side of the family, her inheritance. I clenched my fists. So she chose Lily over me because Lily is her dream child. He nodded, yes. Then he added something I didn't expect. Emily, you need to know, your mother has resented you for years. Not for anything you did, but for who your father is. He tapped his chest. Me. That hurt more than anything else. Not because I believed I deserved better, but because I had spent years wondering why I wasn't enough, why nothing I did ever measured up, why I couldn't unlock the type of love my mother gave so freely to Lily. Now I knew. I was never meant to. I whispered, I spent years thinking I just wasn't special. Dad's eyes softened. You are. You've always been the grounded one, the decent one, the one who faces truth, not illusions. He gave a small smile for the first time that night. But Emily, your mother values image over integrity, glitter over grit, show over substance. I nodded slowly. The grief in me felt, strangely, like relief. Finally, I had data, something real, something that explained the unexplainable. Dad continued, I didn't tell you sooner because I didn't want to burden you, and because I kept hoping your mother would change or realize what she was doing. He shook his head sadly, but she never did, and with the wedding, it became undeniable. I stared at him. Dad, thank you for telling me. He looked surprised. You're not angry with me? I thought carefully before answering. I'm hurt, but at least now I know the truth and I can stop fighting for something I was never going to get. I drove home in silence. When I walked into the apartment, Rick looked up from the kitchen table. Well? He asked gently. I sat down across from him. My mom gave the money to Lily because Lily isn't Dad's. She's the child from an affair Mom had. Lily doesn't know. Rick's eyes widened. Oh, Emily. I nodded. It explains everything. Then I added, and I don't know what to do about it. Rick reached over and brushed hair from my face. You don't have to decide tonight. But I already felt something crystallizing inside me. I looked at him. Rick, I don't want to invite my mother to our wedding. His eyebrows rose. Are you sure? I nodded firmly. She's hurt me enough. I'm done. Rick took my hands and kissed them. Then we'll have a wedding filled only with people who truly love you. Something inside me mended a little, but the calm didn't last long because 2 nights later, I received another message, this time from Lily. It said, "Mom told me Dad said something to you. I want to know what he told you." My stomach tightened. She knew something was up. She was suspicious, and she wanted answers. And I suddenly realized the truth was a grenade, and I was holding the pin. Lily's message sat on my screen like a loaded knife. "Mom told me Dad said something to you. I want to know what he told you." I reread it 3 times, trying to read between the typed lines. Was she scared? Suspicious? Angry? Or just curious? I didn't reply right away. I needed space to think. Rick sat across the living room, pretending not to watch me, but quietly present like a steady anchor. "She reached out?" he asked gently. I nodded. "She wants to know what Dad told me." Rick waited before saying, "You don't owe anyone anything. Not explanations, not absolution." I exhaled slowly. But if I don't tell her, I become part of the family pattern of silence. And I'm so tired of secrets. Still, I didn't answer her that night. Instead, I lay awake beside Rick, turning the situation over like a Rubik's Cube I couldn't solve. If I told her the truth, that Dad wasn't her father, it would shatter her world. But if I didn't tell her, I'd be protecting the very structure that oppressed me all my life. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, I realized truth isn't cruelty. Truth is clarity. Truth is freedom, even when it hurts. So the next morning, I typed back, "Let's talk in person." She replied instantly, "Tomorrow? Mom and Dad's?" I stared at the phone, then typed, "No, neutral place, just us. Lakeside Cafe." She sent a simple thumbs up emoji. Ironic, really, for the most explosive meeting of our lives. The next day, I arrived early. Lakeside Cafe sat across from a duck pond, with fairy lights strung along the windows. It was peaceful, warm, almost too gentle for what was coming. I chose a booth in the back. My hands were cold. I kept rubbing them together to calm myself. When Lily walked in, she looked nervous, not defiant, not smug, just small. "Hey," she said softly. I nodded. "Hey." She slid into the booth and folded her hands. "So, what did Dad tell you?" No preamble, no pretense. Maybe she already sensed the rift in the earth beneath her feet. I looked straight at her. No drama, no hesitation. "He told me that he's not your biological father." Lily stared at me, blinked. Once, twice. I half expected her to laugh, to accuse me of joking, but instead she whispered, "I knew it." That shocked me more than anything. You knew?" She swallowed hard. "Not officially, not confirmed, but I felt it." She looked down, voice trembling. "Mom always treated me like I was hers in a different way. Like I was an extension of her. Like I was her second chance." My heart softened, because in that moment, Lily wasn't the sparkle princess anymore. She was just another daughter trying to survive our mother's warped universe. "And Dad?" I asked quietly. She wiped her eyes. I always felt like he was kind, but distant. Like there was a wall. I thought maybe I wasn't good enough for him. That hit me hard, because while I spent years starving for Mom's love, Lily spent years starving for Dad's. We were both missing something different. We both hurt, just asymmetrically. Did Mom tell you? I asked. Lily shook her head. She never did, but once I overheard her arguing with Dad years ago. I remember her yelling, "You will not treat her differently just because she's not yours." I didn't understand at the time. She exhaled shakily. Now I do. I reached across the table and Lily didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "I know this is painful." Lily gave a tiny, broken laugh. "Honestly, it's almost a relief. It explains a lot." I nodded. "Yeah, it does." For a brief moment, I thought this was the turning point. Reconciliation, shared truth, maybe even sisterly closeness. But then Lily asked the question that changed the tone. "So, are you going to confront Mom?" I shook my head. I already did. She doesn't feel guilty. She thinks favoritism is just choosing the brighter star. Lily winced. "She said that?" I nodded. "Yes, and I'm done trying to earn her love." Lily's face hardened slightly. "So, what now? We just go to war with Mom?" I shook my head, firmly. "I'm not going to war with her. I'm walking away." Lily's brows furrowed. "What does that mean?" I looked her in the eyes. "It means Mom isn't invited to my wedding." Lily froze. "Wait, what?" I repeated calmly. "She's not invited." Lily stared at me, stunned. "But you can't just exclude her." I tilted my head. "She excluded me for decades. I'm simply ending the game." Then Lily said something that made the air grow sharp. People will talk. Our family name." I cut in. "I don't care about family image. That's Mom's obsession, not mine." Lily's lips tightened. "But weddings are public. People will question why the mother of the bride isn't there." I shrugged. "Let them question. I'm not hiding the truth anymore." And suddenly, Lily changed. The softness evaporated. A hint of Mom's steel slid into her voice. "You're making this dramatic. You're punishing her." I leaned forward slightly. "Am I? Or am I finally protecting myself?" Lily's eyes flashed. "Mom didn't do what she did with malice. She did it for the good of the family." I inhaled slowly. "She did it for the good of you, at the expense of me." The conversation tilted sharply. Lily's posture straightened, chin lifted. Let's be honest. My wedding will be bigger, more impressive, more beneficial for our family socially." I stared at her. "That doesn't make it more meaningful." She waved a hand dismissively. "You're marrying a teacher, Emily. It's sweet, but it's small. Mom just wants the family to look aspirational." That's when the slow anger in me ignited. So she gets to decide whose life is worth celebrating? Who counts? Who matters? She shrugged. "It's not about mattering. It's about opportunity and visibility." I shook my head. "No, it's about love and respect." Then Lily said something that cracked the air. "You're overreacting. You've always been sensitive about Mom." I stared at her in disbelief. "Sensitive? Lily, our mother used my wedding fund to upgrade yours." She hesitated, then said, "Well, yes, but I didn't ask for that." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you refuse it?" Silence. Lily's gaze flickered away. That was answer enough. I finally said, "Lily, I don't hate you. I never did. But I won't continue pretending everything's fine." Lily crossed her arms. "So what? You won't come to my wedding either?" I considered it. Then quietly, "Not if Mom is present and parading you as the superior daughter. I won't stand in that shadow anymore." Lily's eyes widened. "You're willing to skip my wedding?" I nodded. "Yes. If attending means participating in my own erasure, yes." Lily's expression fractured. Hurt, anger, disbelief swirling together. "I never asked to be the favorite." I softly replied, "No, but you benefited from it." Silence settled between us. Heavy. Trembling. For a moment, neither of us looked at the other. I finally stood up. "I'm done with that family dynamic. You can stay in it if you want, but I won't." Lily looked up, eyes glistening. "You're really cutting Mom off?" I nodded. "Yes, and maybe one day you'll have to decide if you will too." I walked out, but halfway across the parking lot, I heard Lily call after me, "Emily!" I turned. She walked toward me, more desperate now. "Don't tell Dad I knew. Please, he'll think I kept a secret." I shook my head. "I won't tell him. But Lily, you should talk to him. He loves you. Even if you're not biologically, he loves you as his daughter." Lily's voice cracked. "Does he?" I nodded firmly. "Yes, more honestly than Mom ever has." I could see the tears begin to spill, but I also saw something else. She wasn't ready yet, not to break away, not to confront, not to step outside Mom's gravitational pull, not like I was. When I got back home, Rick opened the door and just looked at me, reading my face. "That hard?" I nodded. "Hard, but necessary." That night, for the first time in my life, I felt a strange, fragile peace. Painful, yes, but freeing. But before that peace could take root, it was interrupted. The very next morning, I received a call from Mom. Her voice was icy, controlled. "Emily, I heard you're telling outrageous stories to Lily. You are poisoning this family with lies and insecurity." My heart thudded. How did she find out so fast? But before I could respond, she added, "If you continue this, you will regret it." That wasn't disappointment. That wasn't concern. That was a threat. When my mother said, "If you continue this, you will regret it," something inside me shifted, not with fear, with clarity. I was done being the quiet daughter, done swallowing hurt, done keeping peace that only ever protected her. I replied with the calm I didn't feel. "I'm not lying, and I'm not backing down." She inhaled sharply. "You're fabricating drama because you're jealous. You always have been." I smiled sadly because that old accusation no longer landed. "I'm not jealous, Mom. I'm finally awake." I hung up. That moment was the final snap of an old tether, the symbolic umbilical cord that tied me to her approval. Severed. The following weeks before my wedding were surreal. Invitations went out, minus one name. It caused murmurs. My aunt called. "Is this true? Your mother isn't invited?" My reply was blunt. "Yes." She gasped. "But why?" I answered, "Because I'm protecting my peace." Aunt Martha paused, then whispered, "Good for you, dear." For every relative who judged me, there was another who quietly supported me, who maybe had also lived under someone else's emotional tyranny and recognized the courage of stepping away. Lily never texted again after our conversation. She needed silence, processing, or maybe strategic distance. I didn't blame her. But Dad, he reached out 1 week before the ceremony. His message simply said, "I'll be there, and I'm proud of you." I cried when I saw it. Then came the wedding day. The venue was a garden estate, rustic beams, lantern lights in the trees, soft cello music drifting through dusk air. Not glamorous, not designer, not curated to impress, but it was ours. When I saw the chairs filling with friends, colleagues, Rick's family, and relatives who chose to be there, a spacious warmth filled me. Then I saw Dad. He wore a navy suit, slightly loose on his shoulders, but he carried himself with the gentlest dignity. When he hugged me, he whispered, "I love you, Emily. Always have." I replied softly, "Thank you for loving me, even when she didn't." He pulled back and looked at me, emotional but steady. "She didn't love you the way she should have, but I did, and I always will." For the first time, I truly believed him. But then I saw Lily. She wasn't supposed to come. She hadn't RSVP'd. Yet there she was, standing at the back, clutching her purse, looking conflicted. I froze, then slowly walked toward her. She gave a weak smile. She said, "I didn't know if I should come, but I wanted to see you." I nodded at her presence, not as validation, not as forgiveness, but as acknowledgement of the complicated bond we still shared. "I'm glad you came," I said quietly. But then, through the open gate at the end of the aisle, I saw her, my mother. She wasn't invited, she wasn't welcome, but she arrived anyway. Dressed in an extravagant cream suit, pearls, hair perfectly sculpted. She didn't come to witness, she came to perform. Rick saw my face darken and followed my gaze. Dad saw her too, and his jaw clenched. She marched right up to me as if she had the right. "Emily," she said with a brittle cheerfulness, "a wedding is not complete without the mother of the bride." I stared at her. "You weren't invited." People turned. Murmurs began. The air thickened. She smiled, too wide. "You're emotional, darling, understandably, but let's not embarrass ourselves." I felt Lily's eyes on me. I felt Dad's attention sharpen, and I knew this was the moment, the final test. I spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. "You do not get to show up for the spotlight when you abandoned me in the shadows." She stiffened. "Stop being dramatic." But I continued. "You denied me love, you denied me support, you denied me dignity. And you gave what was meant for me to Lily, because you saw her as the daughter you wanted, and saw me as the daughter you tolerated." The audience went absolutely silent, like the world paused. Mother's smile faltered. "That's enough." But I wasn't done. "You can't rewrite history today. Not here, not anymore." She glared at me. "You're humiliating yourself." I shook my head. "No, I'm freeing myself." Dad stepped forward then, his voice steady, firm. "Leave, Julia." She spun toward him. "I have every right to be here." Dad looked at her with a quiet strength I'd never seen before. "Rights come from relationships built on respect. You didn't respect our daughter. You don't get to claim her today." Something in my mother's expression cracked, indignation fighting panic. She looked to Lily, desperate for reinforcement. "Lily!" But Lily simply shook her head, eyes wet. "Mom, you can't do this anymore. Not to her, not to me, not to Dad." My mother blinked, shocked, betrayed, exposed. People shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, others watched with solemn interest. My mother straightened, chin high. Fine. Then she turned on her heel and walked briskly out the gate, heels tapping harshly against stones, like punctuation marks of defeat. I exhaled deeply. For the first time in my entire life, I felt my chest expand with unburdened breath. Lily approached me slowly. "Em," she said, "I'm sorry." I nodded. "I know. And I hope you'll eventually heal from her too." She looked at Dad, then back at me. "Can I hug you?" I opened my arms, and we hugged, not as rivals, but as sisters who had both been casualties of the same mother's fractures. When she stepped back, she whispered, struggling through tears. "She made us feel like we had to compete for love. But we never did we?" I shook my head. No, we were both worthy all along. Rick came to my side then, steady as bedrock. We continued with the ceremony. When the officiant spoke, I watched Rick's face as he recited his vows. He wasn't promising perfection or fairy tale romance. He promised partnership. He promised honesty. He promised presence. And I realized I was marrying a man who loved me for who I was, not what I represented. When the vows ended and the applause rose, sunlight filtered through the trees, like a quiet blessing. Later, during the reception, Dad pulled me aside under the twinkle lights. "I failed to protect you from her," he said. I shook my head. "No, you did the best you could. And today, you stood up." He smiled, tired but proud. "Maybe late." I squeezed his hand, but just in time. Toward the end of the evening, Lily approached again. "I want to talk to Dad soon," she said. "Really talk, honestly, about everything." I nodded. "He'll be ready when you are." She looked at me with genuine warmth. "I hope we can build something new between us." I smiled. "We will, at our own pace." When guests finally began to leave and lantern lights flickered softer, I felt settled. Not because the drama was over, but because the truth had won. My mother's absence wasn't a tragic hole. It was a clean space where healing was allowed to grow. In the weeks that followed, I got messages from relatives. Some offended, some admiring, some curious. But none of them mattered more than my own peace, and Rick's steady hand, and Dad's renewed faith in himself as a father, and Lily's tentative step toward self-definition beyond favoritism. I didn't block my mother. I simply stopped chasing her. The hope for her love had finally been released. I redefined family, not by blood, but by mutual love and respect. My lesson was simple. You are allowed to choose peace over tradition, truth over appearances, and self-respect over obligation. And now I ask you, the listener, the reader, the person on the other side of the screen, have you ever had to walk away from a toxic family bond or stand up against a lifelong pattern of mistreatment? Share your story in the comments. Someone might find strength in your truth.